What's left of the aircraft has sunk into the vast swamp.
There was no evidence of the airplane, there was just debris. Everywhere present, no evidence of passengers.
Recovery teams continue to battle the hostile environment, looking for any clues they can find.
You're checking through and you're looking at the radars, and you're stepping out of stuff. You have to bend down and you have to pick it up and see what it is.
There were times where, you know, if you use a wire line, it was the back end of the thing.
While Fight's rescue team scours the dense grasses of the swamp, investigators turn their attention to the only lead they have. The pilots reported smoke in the cabin. They dig through Flight 592's records, looking for clues as to what might have caused it. They learned that the flight was delayed earlier in the day due to minor electrical problems. It raises concerns that an electrical fire brought down the plane.
We were looking at any explanation. There could have been a fault in the wiring or a short circuit, and we realized it's going to be a very difficult investigation.
With this new lead, NTSB fire investigator Merritt Berkey studies clumps of tangled wiring pulled from the swamp to determine whether a short circuit could have caused the in-flight fire. When faulty wiring sparks a fire, electrical arcing causes the wires to burn and melt.
When we recovered more of the electrical harness on the plane, we saw some damage there, but it wasn't evidence of electrical arcing on the wire.
Careful examination rules out faulty wiring as a potential cause of the fire. Investigators are still without answers. All they have to go on are random pieces of wreckage they've been able to find in the swampland.
So we have parts coming in that were damaged, almost all limited to the cargo compartment. We have melted structure components that were in the overhead of the cargo compartment, which made up the floor of the passenger compartment.
As Merritt Berkey hunts for evidence of what started the fire, he makes a chance discovery.
It's stainless steel. You don't normally see burned stainless steel in flight fire.
Planes are made of lightweight material like aluminium and titanium, not stainless steel. Investigators conclude that if the stainless steel wasn't from the plane, then it must be from the cargo.
The operations group more and more became concerned about the cargo that was loaded on the airplane and what possible significance it could have to the accident.
They pulled the cargo documentation for Flight 592 and discovered that the plane was transporting 3 tires and 5...
Hey, bosses. Got the guy with this copy of Dre's phone.
Head back to the office when you're ready, partner.
Oxygen generators are small devices installed above the passenger seats of certain airplanes. They're connected to oxygen masks that drop down in the event of cabin depressurization. When deployed, several chemicals combine to create oxygen. The chemical reaction generates a lot of heat. The canisters can reach 500 degrees Fahrenheit.
This thing's getting pretty hot there. Really hot. An oxygen generator that is not mounted in its proper position in a heat sink cradle in the passenger is legal, because if it's anywhere near combustible material, you're going to have a fire.
Regulations require that all oxygen generators removed from an aircraft be deactivated and emptied of volatile chemicals before transporting.
We have 5 boxes of diesel and 44 thrown in a box carried as cargo. They're supposedly empty. What danger is there carrying them as cargo?
It's no question. Clearly listed as empty.
Investigators wonder whether the oxygen generators were improperly dismantled before shipping.
Did they have a potential for creating a fire or a fire situation that could have jeopardized the safety of this aircraft?
Recovery teams in the field catch a lucky break and recover a batch of oxygen generators at the bottom of the Everglades. The discovery confirms their hunch. While some of them are empty,
Since I've ever been triggered.
many others are full.
The oxygen generators that we had found had been damaged. Some were completely flattened, some of them were charred and crushed, some of them still had the material in them, but the case had been dented and damaged.
It now seems that the highly volatile chemicals were shipped on board ValueJet 592. Had the pilots known what was actually on board, it's unlikely they would have signed off on the manifest. But to prove their theory, investigators need to find out how the canisters got on the flight and how they might have ignited. Hazardous materials specialist Jim Henderson joins the investigative team to figure out how highly volatile oxygen generators were shipped on ValueJet Flight 592 as cargo. He tracks down shipping papers and uncovers a shocking mistake. The shipping clerk mislabeled the generators as empty, when in fact they were merely past their expiration date.
Does someone actually think that expired and then empty? This was a big problem because these oxygen generators weren't empty.
Hey, you know that Sprunk motorbike team?
Expiration.
And they've been having a hell of a year picking up Grand Prix like they coming out of a fucking vending machine.
They were still capable.
Where that Star Rider just broke his winning streak. Got his personal super tuned up ride stolen. So he came to us. Man, the way he was talking about that bike, you think he gave birth to that motherfucker or some shit. Apparently a gang of real serious car thieves made off with it as part of some deal with the Mexicans. They've been boosting vehicles all over LS and are planning to ship them out of the LSIA. Look, head down there and make sure that deal falls through, alright?
Because of an error in shipping papers. But the mistake still doesn't explain how the fire spread to the rest of the plane. The DC-9's cargo hold is airtight. It's specifically designed to contain the fire. But if oxygen generators were creating their own oxygen, could the cargo hold still contain the fire?
We knew about the oxygen generators and the potential they had for being a fire source, but we didn't really know their real potential for bringing down the aircraft.
At a Federal Aviation Administration fire test facility,
Okay, let's do this.
investigators hope to recreate the fire that consumed Flight 592.
We put 5 boxes of oxygen generators, put them on top of the tire, and put some luggage around.
1 minute to ignition.
We had to trigger one of the oxygen generators in.
Investigators activate one of the generators to simulate a canister being jostled from the cargo hold during takeoff.
An unbelievable noise. It sounded like a high-pitched scream. We all looked at each other and we were kind of startled. I mean, the sound was deafening.
After ignition, the ceiling of the test cargo container reaches 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit.
Lord almighty, we had a raging fire, and none of us had expected a fire to be that big and that hot. And it was just amazing to see how destructive something this long and that big route could be.
The experiment supports the NTSB theory. Improperly dismantled and mislabeled oxygen generators caused the crash at ValueJet 592. Even in an airtight cargo hold, the fire would have burned fiercely enough to bring down the DC-9.
It only took 3 minutes, 42 seconds for the fire to bring down.
There was no chance of getting the plane to ground safely. In the wake of the accident, the Federal Aviation Administration grounds ValueJet indefinitely. The airline is eventually sold. The NTSB recommends better training for employees who handle oxygen generators. It's the stubborn and unrelenting efforts of investigators that solves the case of ValueJet 592.
You know, a Sherlock Holmes type thing. There's a process of elimination to winnow things down to a cause.
British Airways Flight 38 is nearing the end of a 10.5-hour journey from Beijing to London's Heathrow Airport. Captain Peter Burger has made this trip many times before.
I was operating that route a lot. It was one of my favourite ones because it was daylight. You could see the views the whole way along the route.
Burkill and First Officer John Coward both have thousands of hours flying the 777 under their belts.
It's a joy to fly. She handles really well. She's got incredible computers for everything.
Powered by two massive Rolls-Royce engines, the Boeing 777 is one of the safest planes in the industry. The autopilot is in control as the crew lines up to the runway. At 1,000 feet above the ground, the plane is buffeted by some high winds. Just a little turbulence. It's their first trip in an otherwise smooth journey. 2 minutes before landing, Coward takes over flying the plane.
We have control.
Land control. But suddenly, there's a problem.
I can't get down on the engines. It's not even.
What do you mean? I was looking at the engine instruments and they didn't make sense to me because the engine instruments
Less than 3 miles from the runway. Flight 38 is crippled in the worst way imaginable. It looks like the plane is falling to the southwest line. The pilots of the Boeing 777 need to find a way to keep the plane from crash landing in a London suburb, potentially killing scores of people. Both engines aboard British Airways Flight 38 have failed. There isn't enough power to make it to the runway at Heathrow Airport.
only had about 15 seconds to make a huge decision. I needed to get half those building. I needed to raise the flaps.
Retracting the flaps will reduce drag, but also lift. The plane will fly further, but drop faster onto the grass in front of the runway. It's a dangerous move, but it's Captain Burkill's best option for saving lives.
I remember a couple of impacts and stories.
The landing was hard. Noise, bits falling off the ceiling.
Rescuers rush to the scene. Miraculously, there is a single casualty. Still, the crash of Flight 38 is the most serious accident at Heathrow in 30 years. More significantly, the 777 is one of the world's most modern and reliable jets. The accident unsettles the airline industry.
It had such a superb safety record. What on earth happened? You don't like not knowing whether it might happen to the rest of your fleet.
Investigators quickly arrive on the scene. Phil Smythe is the lead engineer of Britain's AAI unit, the Air Accident Investigation Branch.
Any further crash accidents? The first crash arrives.
Just hours after the crash, investigators interview. Captain Peter Burkill has a first-hand account of what happened.
We tried to give them power landing.
Burkill explains that something had caused both of the jet's Rolls-Royce engines to roll back at the same time, robbing the aircraft of power.
When you hear something of an engine failure, you start looking out for what's caused. What can cause both engines to fail at the same time? So our first thoughts were that we may have run out of fuel.
At the crash site, investigators looked at the aircraft's fuel levels. They confirmed that two of the tanks did in fact have fuel. The power loss on Flight 38 must have been caused by something else. An explanation should be simple to find, since every piece of evidence investigators could ever want is readily available.
We're quite honest how the amount of data that we have in this aircraft, because the aircraft remained intact, we were able to get lots of data from the recorders and also computers.
The 777's advanced computers handle most of the flight systems. A massive failure of those systems could explain why the engines stopped working. After reviewing the flight recorders, investigators rule out computer failure as a factor in the crash. But that's not the end of Paul's total.
Tickets parameters from the codex recorder from the control valves. Both those valves indicated that they had opened to the fully open position.
The plane's computers were working, and the fuel valves were open. So why wasn't the fuel reaching the engine? Investigators are stuck.
They had the pilots, they had the passengers, they had the aircraft, they had everything there. Except of course the power disappeared. As if by magic.
Intercepted this large shipment of narcotics concealed in the heads of standardfish. There's some gold at the bottom. We suspect it might be Bactrian in origin.
There's a big red flag for us. David's dead.
As a professional athlete, you have the surface, awe-inspiring, death-defying. I'm continuing to chase that feeling. But there's an absolute legal fix. To be a really amateur athlete, you have to push past the fear to achieve a transcendent experience. Sometimes it's only good on you. Unable to explain why British Airways Flight 38 crash-landed at Heathrow, investigators now turn away from the clues they have to those they don't.
Phil started coming out for banter, which is a quote from Sherlock Holmes.
Whatever is there, however involved, must be closed.
Ich will einfach.
Has to be. In this case, we always keep coming back to what's there, what couldn't be there, that's not there now. We come back to life.
Investigators wonder if ice built up in the fuel lines while flying over Siberia could have clogged the system. Ice in the fuel lines has long been a concern for jets of all kinds flying in cold air masses.
If you have water in the fuel, then that water will freeze before ice crystal.
Decades ago, engineers found an ingenious way to deal with the ice forming in the fuel lines of passenger jets. The the heart of the system is the fuel oil heat exchanger, or FOHE. Fuel runs through thin tubes, which are surrounded by the hot oil used to lubricate the engines.
The purpose of a fuel heater is to heat the fuel up to prevent icing of the delicate fuel control system.
If ice builds up in the fuel lines and somehow the FOHE fails to it, how can investigators prove it if the evidence of ice is no longer present? 3 months after the crash, Brian McDermott flies to the Boeing headquarters in Seattle to test whether ice was a key factor in bringing down Flight 38. First, they reconstruct the entire fuel system. Then they replicate the temperature conditions the Boeing 777 encountered during its flight.
There was a certain level of surprise as to how much could actually grow.
While investigators can prove that ice crystals likely formed during the flight, it doesn't explain if it could have taken down the plane. The FOHE should have melted it. The investigators simulate Flight 38's journey.